Hello, everybody. This week I'm going to be going over Nintendo.com. This is the fourth in a series of game store websites I've been reviewing. First, I went over the Epic Game Store. Then I followed that up with Steam, GOG, and finally I'm going to cover Nintendo. And I'm going to be comparing it to those other three sites in terms of responsive design, how they shrink down all of the various elements on the site to work on a phone, in terms of accessibility and in terms of what it's like to use it with a screen reader. So here I have the Nintendo website open in desktop and on mobile. There we go. I'm going to do my very best to avoid getting a copyright strike because we all know how Nintendo is, but I decided to take that risk this time. And I also have my real iPhone 5S pulled up. Like last week, I decided to test the site on an old slow phone just to see how it holds up on a phone that quite a lot of people still probably use. So let's load this up on my phone. And the iPhone 5S is quite an old phone, but it's still a little bit modern in the way that Apple still sells new devices that have this exact screen. The iPhone SE from 2016, which Apple still supports with software updates as far as I know, has this screen. And the iPod Touch that they sell right now on their website also has this screen. So this is still a modern screen size for iOS, and websites still need to be able to support this tiny little thing. I mean, look at how tiny this is. So instead of going over the site with like a modern phone like my iPhone 12 that I own, I'm going to see how it holds up on an iPhone 5. Alright, so it looks like first we have an ad for their new big game, Hyrule Warriors. You have a very passive slider with a bunch of other games, which is already very different from the approach that the other three websites took. Steam, Epic, and GOG all have like an automatic big hero slider, like an almost full screen slider up front, whereas Nintendo takes the approach of advertising just one game. And I also noticed that some of the menu items here are offloaded to the bottom, which is pretty nice from a UI perspective. They're nice and easy to reach. Let's see what the hamburger menu here does. So I was expecting it to be other things, but it's the same items. Maybe slightly redundant, but I guess there's nothing wrong with having these options in more than one place. What I'm wondering though is if these support and wish list items are accessible right here. Oh yeah, there they are. I almost would have designed this the other way around, where having the support and wish list higher up, or at least to not have so much padding. Because like if I want to get to the login or the support button, I have to open the menu and then scroll within the menu, and I feel like that's not necessary. But beyond that, this seems like it's very well thought out. Looks like the site's having a little trouble here. Let's try refreshing that. And I guess one more miscellaneous thing, I noticed that the rated T for teen isn't there on phones, which isn't the biggest deal in the world. In general, in responsive design, you don't want to get rid of any information when shrinking down to a phone. I feel like they could have just stacked the ESRB teen rating right below the available now section, but they didn't decide to do that. Let's open up a game. It does seem like performance-wise, the old iPhone is struggling a little bit. So one thing I appreciate right off the bat is no auto-playing videos. Steam and GOG were a little bit relentless with forcing auto-playing videos on you, particularly Steam, which would do 2 auto-playing videos if the game developer was streaming. And on phones, you wouldn't even be able to see the second auto-playing video, but it would still play anyway. I do appreciate Nintendo has none of that. At least not in this game. I'm going to check out another game just to be sure that that's consistent. Let's open up Hyrule. Oh, it looks like that goes to another website. Or at least another domain. I'm not going to spend too long here in that case, but I am curious about performance because there's a lot going on here. I'm going to see if my iPhone can even handle this. Oh, there is a reduce motion option. I'm going to click that right away. Okay, so that's good. I very, very much appreciate that. So if you're on a device that has bad performance, you have the option to get rid of all of the motion, any video elements that there might be. Okay, I have no problems with this. This is actually really, really good. Especially because it's so front and center. I mean, especially on my phone, I noticed that right away. But let's find a game that has a more regular page. I'll provide feedback later, Nintendo. Alright, once again, no auto-playing videos. Thank you, Nintendo. Thank you very, very much. Steam and Epic Game Store, please take note. Auto-playing videos are bad. GOG and Nintendo do it better. But yeah, even still, my iPhone just does not want to load this data right here. And it doesn't even seem to matter how long I wait. I am a little bit curious. I'm going to reach over for my iPad, which is a much more modern device. And I'm going to quickly head over to Nintendo.com on here. As soon as this loads, I can switch it over. Why is it? There we go. Alright, let's see if this is able to load on a more modern iOS device. Or I guess iPad OS in that case, but as far as I know, that's the same thing. Yeah, no trouble there. So there must be some issue with the older version of Safari that the iPhone 5S is stuck on. That doesn't occur on something like an iPad. If Nintendo's interested in supporting older phone users, that's definitely something to look into. But I suppose if Apple doesn't support this device anymore, it might be difficult to argue that Nintendo necessarily has to. Alright, let's head over to a few of these other pages here. Let's see what the big advertising page for the Nintendo Switch is like. I already own 2 Nintendo Switches, but who knows, maybe Nintendo can sell me on a third one. Ah, they keep the reduce motion button. I love that. I wish every website did this. Because Nintendo understands that not everybody has a Galaxy S21 Plus with like absolute top of the line gaming specs inside of it. Some people have old iPhones. Evidently, they don't test specifically on old iPhones. But people also have cheap Android phones. There's Android phones you can buy that cost $60 or so. And they perform about as well as you would expect they would at that price point. Probably no better than this. Probably worse than this. And those people might want to buy a Nintendo Switch as well. So I appreciate that Nintendo has the foresight to just add a reduce motion button for everything, even if you're using a super junky old computer. That you won't need to put up with all this auto playing stuff hogging resources. They give you the option to easily disable it. And I really appreciate that. I wish every website would do that. Okay, and I like how they have this bottom area separated into accordions. That's a very good way to save space, but still show all of the same information without cutting anything out. Alright, let's see which system suits me on both of my devices. Okay, so it looks like they take pretty much the same approach on desktop and mobile here. So they still keep it left and right. Where for the full Nintendo Switch, you have the TV, tabletop, and handheld, whereas the Lite, you just have the handheld. It looks like they decided to get rid of the images. And it looks like the main image and the title for each section is moved to the top on mobile. Yeah, I think that works well. This is a very good way to make it responsive. I like that they kept them side by side and that there's no text overflowing that makes the screen scroll left to right, which is something I see quite a lot on these kind of elements, especially when you get to really, really small screens like this. So evidently they do have devices this small over at Nintendo where they test on. I'd be very surprised if they don't. They probably have an iPhone SE or a modern iPod Touch in there to test with. And before I move on to the next segment, let's look at one more page. How about the Shop Now page? What kind of a page is that? Let's check out sales and deals. I'm going to make that the last segment right here before I move on. Hmm. In terms of responsive design, it looks like the artwork is overlapping a little bit. If there's a square one that's next to really anything. So it seems like the issue is with the square ones. Will two tall ones do that? Let's see if I can find an example. Okay, but the artwork when you view more doesn't do that. So just the square ones that have the deal thing around it. What about in landscape view? All right, so this is just an effect of using probably the smallest modern smartphone screen size that still exists. Ideally, they would fix this. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Let's check out a game. Actually, I'm going to check out their news and events page just because that's probably the last really different page that they have on this website that we haven't looked at yet. And I'm guessing they move the sidebar to the bottom. If they keep it at all, other news and articles. Is this on the mobile site? Hmm. So I would critique that. As I mentioned, it's generally not best practice to outright delete information from the mobile version of the website. Probably what I would do is just have the two sections stack, where you'd have the actual article, and then at the bottom of the article, right before these accordion drop downs, then you would add this section to be a full width thing. Also, the see all articles button is broken. They should adjust the font size on smaller screens so it doesn't bleed out like that. All right, I think that pretty much wraps up the mobile responsiveness section. I'm going to switch over to my Windows machine. And we're going to start analyzing overall accessibility. So I'm going to run an extension in Chrome called Wave that's going to analyze the website in a number of areas and show us where we can improve. Hopefully this picture-in-picture thing will go away. There we go. All right, so we are missing a bit of alternative text on some images. And that's something I've seen across every single one of these websites. Steam was the worst with barely adding any alternative text ever. GOG and Epic would add it most of the time but then forget sometimes, and it looks like Nintendo falls into that as well. So alt text is required on images, and it basically describes what the image is in case it fails to load, or if a screen reader is going to go over it. So here it does have alt text where it says Fortnite available now. So all of these have alt text. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Evidently there's a few where it doesn't, and I'm not entirely sure where. Alright, I'm not going to spend any time hunting around for that, but these 5 images would ideally be fixed to have that alt text if the developers can track down where they are. Alright, so we have some empty headings. Not really sure where it seems to be complaining about this, but clearly it's not empty, so I think the plugin might be wrong here. Alright, so as far as I can tell so far, we're just getting a few false positives or things that aren't really big issues. Same for this. It seems to be complaining about an empty button, but it's not able to tell me where it is. And only one empty link, so I'm curious to see if they do the correct thing on these heart icons, because a lot of websites get this wrong. Yeah, it's curious that Wave isn't complaining about this. So generally with buttons and links, even if it's as simple as this, you're supposed to have text in them, because that's what screen readers will read when they go over the button. They do have an ARIA label that might do the same thing and satisfy the Wave plugin, but I guess we'll get there once we get to the accessibility section, which might come very quickly because there's very few issues with this site from the looks of it. We might have a winner here compared to the other three. It's also complaining about low contrast. But again, that seems like a false positive. Because I think it's complaining about this text, but clearly there's no contrast issues. So I'm going to say I'm pretty impressed. On the other three sites, there were dozens to even hundreds of issues that came up. And here there was like 10, and none of them seemed to matter. So let's go to a game and see if that holds true. Alright, yeah, and it's pretty much the same. This plugin is not finding anything really that bad to fix. So I'm going to say without any contest, this is the best website in terms of overall usability and accessibility among them so far. So I guess with that said, we're just going to move straight on to using a screen reader. And the screen reader that I've been using is called NVDA. And for those who want to download it and use it for yourself, you can get it for free from here. It's completely free. This is the second most popular screen reader. The most popular one is called JAWS. That's a commercial product that I don't think I have a free way to show in these streams. NVDA is number 2. The third most popular one is VoiceOver on Mac. But for this episode, I'm just going to be showing NVDA.
Document busy blank, clickable banner landmark visited link Nintendo Home. Nintendo official site video game consoles, games, clickable banner landmark.
So the general premise of using a screen reader like this is right when you load onto the page, it's going to just read off pretty much everything until you tell it to stop. And I'm going to be going through most of the content by using Shift, up and down, and Enter. There's all sorts of shortcuts and other commands to make things more convenient, but I'm going to keep things very simple for this.
Button search. Dialog, button search. Visited link Nintendo Home. Button search. Dialog. Search landmark. Search edit search Nintendo blank blank blank. I18 and dot close button. Search edit search Nintendo.com blank.
So, one thing that's interesting.
I18. Suggest list with search link Nintendo News.
So the search game system support etc. is not a search URL, even though it's styled to look like one. That is actually a button.
Skip to main Nintendo Home search button.
And then you click on
Dialog. Search landmark. Search edit search Nintendo.com blank blank.
So I am actually a little interested if a few of the things
Run
the Wave
NVDA
plugin is
and
complaining
exit
about
center.
might be inside here. I'm going to quickly run this again, just to see if that's what's up. Nope, it looks like everything's good in here. Though I am also curious because almost every other site had an error with their search boxes. I'm going to see if Nintendo fixed it. Where you're supposed to have a label with an input to give it context. Which again, it looks like they did not, but yet the Wave plugin didn't complain about it. I'm going to give a guess and say it's because of the ARIA label. I'm not 100% sure. I'll do a bit of Googling on that, and I'll have it in the YouTube description if that's what it is, where the Wave plugin didn't care to correct this or not. Anyway, back to the general screen reader overview.
Hyrule Warriors, A. Nintendo official site video game clickable banner landmark visited link Nintendo Home. Button search.
Just a very interesting approach that is a button.
Dialog. Link support. Link wish list. Navigation landmark button graphic login/sign button login/sign up. Blank. Navigation landmark list with 4 items button collapsed games. Expanded link shop games button expanded coming soon link.
These menus are also nice. An issue that all 3 of the other sites had is that their respective drop-down menus were not accessible just with a keyboard. And when you're building a drop-down, there's 2 approaches that you can take. And this depends entirely on if the top-level element is a link or not. So I can go over to GOG's website to show you what I'm talking
selected.
about.
Clickable navigation land about visited link.
So unfortunately on GOG, these drop-downs, as far as I can tell, are not accessible. Because there's no way to trigger the hover effect without literally hovering over them with a mouse, which many screen reader users will not be able to do. Works perfectly fine if you hover.
Highlights.
What they should have done is applied functionality in their JavaScript that also listens for when you're tabbing over it.
Support about visited link.
And then just make the same thing happen as if you hovered over that element. The other approach is you don't make these top-level things linked at all.
Hyrule shop games link. Games button expanded.
And from an accessibility standpoint, that's much simpler because all you have to do is just make it so if you click on it, it'll open up a drop-down like this, and that's the same as pressing enter on a keyboard. So the work is pretty much done for you. So simply because they took a simpler approach than the other 3 websites, this is the best top-level menu among them.
Shop games link. Sales and deals link. Coming soon link. Online, mobile, close button. Hardware button collapsed. Expand, link Nintendo, button expanded hardware. Close button. Button expanded hardware. Link button club button link button collapsed. Out of list link graphic Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity available now.
And once again, good on them for having alt text. That right there is what alt text is needed for. The fact that my screen reader knew what that was is why you add alt text. Steam was the worst with this by basically not adding it ever. And as I mentioned, the other two would add it sometimes, but then forget other times. One alternative you can do, and I failed to mention this in the previous
Hyrule
streams,
Warriors, Age of Calamity available now. New tab.
and GOG actually
selected.
does this to a good effect, is as long as you have other context for what's going on, the image is really just for decoration.
Clickable navigation landmark. Visited link about.
So I can show you here.
Document console prompt edit
I'm just going to turn this little guy off for a little second. So I'm going to find the background that they have going on here. Or at least for some of them they do this. It looks like this image is broken by not having any alt attribute. How about Cyberpunk? Okay, well these ones were definitely good just the other day. Hopefully they didn't break their site. Here we go. So yeah, where you see the alt attribute right here, but then there's nothing in it. That's actually valid. The reason you would do this is if you want the image to just be decoration. So a screen reader will skip over it because it knows that it's not important. And they can do this because they have the name in text right below it. So if you don't want the screen reader to care about images, you can just put alt equals, I'm going to edit this to show you what it would look like in the code. Yeah, so alt equals nothing. So you would have that in your HTML, and that's a valid way to use the alt attribute. So the image isn't broken because you have it, but screen readers won't read anything off, and they'll actually skip the element because it's just decoration. It's kind of the equivalent of like a background graphic of some kind. And that's one approach that they could have taken too. Obviously, for this full-screen hero banner, they didn't because there isn't text on top of it to give context the way that a lot of the games on GOG have. But if they wanted to take a slightly different approach, they could have added text on here and given a blank alt attribute, and that would be valid too, and then it would just skip over the image.
Taskbar. Nintendo official site. Caps lock on. Caps lock off. Visit site link. Pre-order now heading level 3 link. Separator. Link heading level 3 Nintendo Switch. Link heading level 3 pre-order now. Nintendo. Link heading level 3 available now. Fantasy Violence. Pre-order now heading level 3 link.
On that note, we might have our first issue.
Document blank. Select an element. Nintendo Officials. Elements panel property page. Page DOM tree view. Level 15 less IMG width equal.
So it's interesting that the screen reader... Oh, you know, it's because the A links over the images have ARIA hidden true, if you'll see that right there.
HDR true.
I would be interested to learn why they did that, because this basically makes the alt text on the image useless to a screen reader, because it's going to skip over the parent element. So it's almost like what I was saying, where you could add the blank alt if you want it to skip the element. For all intents and purposes, that's what they're doing. The issue is not all of these have text content to give you context of what this is. So a bunch of these games are called pre-order now, as far as my screen reader is concerned, or available now. And because there's ARIA hidden true on the A tag, there's no way for me to know what these games are. So that is definitely something they should look into. This is a real accessibility concern for this section in particular.
Game tile. Hyrule. Nintendo link heading level. Nintendo link heading level 3 available now.
Yeah, having the ARIA hidden true on those images is a mistake because that's the only thing that gives context to what these games are. Which would be fine, because they all have alt text the way that they're supposed to. They just need to make, or they just need to get rid of the ARIA hidden true, and this would be fine.
Nintendo link heading level 3 game and watch Super Mario Brothers. Available now. Nintendo link heading level 3 free demo available.
Alternatively, they could add another line of text, like right above pre-order now, that just says what the game is. That would also fix this.
Link heading level link Nintendo Switch link heading level 3 available now. Link heading level 3 Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary visit site.
That being said, I do appreciate the simplicity of the design with this, where you're able to see all of the games kind of at once.
Available now.
And they're very simple to navigate through all of them. This is in contrast with
Hyrule
what the
Warriors.
Epic Game Store
New
does.
tab Google. See Epic selected. Epic Games.
Their main slider looks like this.
Search button. Search. Add to. Store navigation landmark search button. Current item Hitman 3 Epic Games Store exclusive Scott Pilgrim vs. Add to wish list. Add to wish list button. Current item. Buy now link. Out of clickable
Yeah,
button
we have
the
this
medium.
confusing mess, which is almost impossible to properly navigate.
Clickable button the medium.
It looks really pretty, but if you're a vision impaired user, it's a nightmare to actually use. Whereas this
Hyrule Warrior loaded separate Nintendo Switch.
This might not be as fancy, but it's infinitely more usable. Simply because it's simpler. There isn't nearly as much that can go wrong. And I do appreciate Nintendo leaning towards that kind of an approach for a site like this. I think leaning towards designs that are just intrinsically simpler is the better approach for a website that is a storefront and basically just meant to convey information and functionality for buying things. I feel like this is a better approach than how flashy a lot of the other stores try to be.
Shop Games link. Game Store, loaded, separator. Game Store, buy, download, and play. Link Shop Game, separator. Heading Level 2 Explore Gaming Systems. Heading Level 3 Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite. Link starting at $199.99 MSRP star. Separator. Landmark heading separator. Pokemon Crystal version heading level 3 link. Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition heading level 3 link.
And for this section, I can kind of see why they wanted to take the approach of hiding the images from a screen reader. Because when you have the context of the titles here, you're avoiding reading off each game twice, which is what would probably happen if they didn't do that. The issue is that they made the game title available now. Like, that's literally what the screen reader sees for the game title. So the version of this element above is broken as a result, whereas this one works just fine.
Tomodachi Life heading, Super Street Fighter, Nintendo 3, link heading left, view your wish list with a new Pokemon Snap trademark.
I'm also curious, is there a way to
Pokemon
add
Crystal
to wish
version
list?
heading level Nintendo 3DS. Super Mario trademark 3D, $59.
Okay, so some games have the icon, some don't, it looks like. Let me refresh the page. I just want to be sure I didn't cause that to happen.
Nintendo official site video game, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity available. Link. Nintendo link cut Nintendo Switch toggle button not pressed. View your wish list with a Nintendo account.
Okay, I think that's fine. It does correctly communicate to me that I need to have a Nintendo account for this button to do anything. I'm gonna guess that's what would happen if I click on
Untitled
this.
Google Chrome.
Yeah.
Nintendo official site video game console coming 04/30/2021.
I am a little curious what's going to happen if I'm logged in. As soon as I'm done with this page, I'm going to try logging in and see if that option changes in any way.
Top button previous button next loading heading level 2 news. List with 6 items 01/ link heading level 3 you can kick off your link head you can find Nintendo 01/Nintendo. Feast Mario feast your eyes on these captivating you can find explore the feast you imagine link imaginative worlds.
It's interesting that it skips the read more on these.
Document blank. Select thank Nintendo officials elements panel
Once
property
again, there's
page.
an ARIA hidden true for some reason, and I'm not totally sure why. That definitely confuses me. Maybe because this goes to the same place? So they don't want the redundancy, but in that case, why did they...
All bar Nintendo elements panel
No, they hide
level
that
6
too.
feast your eyes 01 thanks feast your eyes on these select an Nintendo feast your eyes on these captivating games H3 ARIA thanks to the dedication feast your eyes on these captivating.
Probably they figured that link was good enough. I would not hide the read more link. I don't think there's any reason to do that. Like having something that literally reads out read more seems like it would just be a good thing. So I'm not sure why they hid that.
Link 01/13/20 link heading level 3 Mario Kart Tour 01 link 0 link head out of list link see all separator heading level 2 new link see 0 view your wish list with Animal Crossing trademark link games in the link Kirby trademark separator banner landmark heading released link heading level 3 Among Us regular price $, Nintendo Switch, toggle button not button previous, button next, loading, list with 1, ms, out of list content info links, out of list with 2, link out of list with 4 items link Nintendo on Instagram link Nintendo on Nintendo on Twitter link Nintendo on Twitter.
Alright, finally I found one of these sites that actually properly makes the social icons element. For most of these sites, they just add like a generic
select an
link
Nintendo
where the
official
screen reader won't
elements
even know
panel.
what's going on. But yeah, here they correctly add ARIA label so screen readers can know what these are, like that you know when you're over the Facebook one or the Instagram one. It's such a simple thing, but even like GOG failed on that one, I think. So it's good that Nintendo appreciated the little details, even with something as small as that.
Blank.
All right.
Hardware. Hyrule Warriors. Age of Calamity. Next page button. Blank. Among Us for Nintendo Switch. Clickable main landmark banner landmark visited button search. Links. Out of list graphic everyone 10 plus. Nintendo Switch. Heading level 1 Among Us. Available now. $5. Link purchase the Among Us digital in-game content. $5. Link purchase the Among Us digital in-game content. Link learn more about my Nintendo Gold points. Toggle button not pressed view your wish list with a Nintendo heading level 2 2020 for outstanding experiences. List clickable with 2 items out of list clickable. Clickable. Clickable.
I don't like that it's just saying clickable over all these images. If a screen reader ever says something really generic like clickable or button, there's probably something going wrong here. So let's see what's up with all these.
Select Among Us for element.
So it is ARIA hidden true. And I'm not seeing alt text on these. Even though it's hidden, the alt text is still important. Because for one, evidently they have failed to make screen readers skip these elements, if that's what they intended to do. But alt text is also important in case the image can't load, so that you could still know what the image is. And I'm not even seeing an empty alt attribute here. So probably what they should do is get rid of the ARIA hidden true in all these images and add full alt text. Or they would add the empty alt attribute so that the screen readers would consider it to be the same as background content. I would say either one of these approaches would probably be what would be needed to fix this issue.
Blank. Clickable, clickable, clickable. Clickable. Out of list button jump to page 1. Button jump button pre button heading level 2 an online and local party game of teamwork and play with 4 departure everyone link official game site opens in a list with 7 items release date December 15th players up to 10 players genre indie publisher inner sloth developer inner game 4 sub English out of list with graphic TV mode graphic tabletop mode, graph, handheld, ESRB, link out of list graphic Nintendo Switch, play online, link Nintendo, this game link online, link saved, Nintendo Switch online membership, not available in all countries.
And I'm going to open NVDA here, and since I'm logged in, I'm very curious what these heart icons are going to do now. Oops. Wrong program. Both icons are purple, so get a little confused.
Clickable banner landmark visited link Nintendo Home.
Fair warning, the stream might get a little bit rough because running OBS and streaming at the same time as NVDA is brutal, even on my computer, so I'll try to make this quick.
Hyrule Warrior, released, toggle button not pressed add to wish list. Toggle button not pressed add to wish list. Remove from wish list. Toggle button pressed remove from wish list.
Those work beautifully. That is good to know.
Link heading link heading level 3. Regular price $59.9 Nintendo Switch links link head available 20 link button toggle button not pressed add to wish list.
And it even tells you if it's pressed down or not. Alright, I think my stream is struggling a lot, so I'm going to try to close this out if I can manage. Unfortunately, my stream did cut off at that point due to those technical issues. Luckily, that was the very last thing I wanted to cover before simply doing a recap, so I'll just do that right here. The Nintendo website was my favorite among the 4 that I covered, the other 3 being the Steam website, GOG, and the Epic Game Store. The Nintendo website was the most accessible among them, having an accessible drop-down menu, a main slider that was simple and made sense, and with responsive design that was very well thought out as far as I can tell. There were a few small issues. While they do use alt text well, there was one slider, the main slider on the homepage, that looks like it was being used in a way that the developers of that element didn't necessarily intend, where instead of having a title, it would say now available or something, and since the images had an ARIA hidden attribute on them, they were completely inaccessible to screen readers. This is a very simple fix. All they need to do is make the titles be what the actual game title is, because that's how that element was designed. From there, the only other big issue I found was on the actual game pages, there's a gallery of images that was coded with the intent of being hidden from screen readers, although I was still able to access it with mine, and it was reading the images off as blank. So that needs to be fixed, and I believe that alt text also needed to be added to them to make them proper, valid images. Beyond that, the Wave Accessibility plugin only found false positives as far as I could find. Either that or the issues were so well hidden that I wasn't able to actually find them with my own eyes during the stream. And that was refreshing in comparison to a few of the other sites I've looked at so far, which would have dozens to even hundreds of issues that the add-on was complaining about. So overall, the Nintendo website, I believe, is the best among them by a good margin in terms of overall usability, particularly with screen readers. I came across no significant issues whatsoever, and I think Nintendo did an excellent job building that website, and they should be very, very proud of it. So next, I'm going to be leaving the topic of game websites and moving on to another topic, that being government and official websites. In the next stream, I'm going to be covering whitehouse.gov, specifically the new whitehouse.gov that just got put up once the new president was elected. There's a lot of talk in the dev community about this site being particularly good, although there's some discourse about the site not really being that good. So I'm going to cover it next time and see what I think. Until then, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.